I have to rant about this. I don't think there's any other way I'm going to get around this topic because I'm honestly tired of the bullshit of the topic of the NCAA and college athletes. So for those of you who don't want to hear my longest rant ever about motherfucking US college sports, by all means, you've been warned. But for those of you who want to hear one angry motherfucker go off on pretty much every fucking human being involved in this bullshit with the NCAA, EA Sports, video games, the NFL, all the way down to women's field hockey and used bloody tampons, you've come to the right place. This is easily going to be my longest rant on my channel so far. Now, quick rundown of the events and why this shit is pissing me off. Last week, EA announced that they're not going to be making a college football game in the foreseeable future, which means at least next year and most likely a few years from now until people get their shit together. This all stems from a lawsuit filed by former college players who want a cut of the pie that the NCAA makes each year off of college sports. The lawsuit involved EA Sports because they use player likeness in their games. And in particular, NCAA football and March Madness that was discontinued a few years ago and shit like that. And these people want to get paid for their likeness. This is understandable. But this gigantic clusterfuck is actually not the fault of EA Sports. I know this is hard to believe that EA is not entirely at fault for a video game fuck-up. No. EA is merely collateral damage in this, as well as the fans of NCAA and March Madness franchise. The main problem, as it is with any problem, is greed. 100% money-grabbing corporate and personal greed. Greed that doesn't care who gets screwed over. Greed that doesn't give a fuck whether fans suffer the consequences. Greed that only pretends that college students and their parents matter. The main culprit in this bullshit is the NCAA, the governing body of college sports. College sports, in particular football, is a business. It's a business run by criminals, and it's a paid business by corporations who make money and ultimately pushed out onto fans disguised as tradition, but it's essentially a money-making, racketeering business. The reason why NCAA football was canceled is because greedy criminals at the NCAA and school presidents are fighting with self-entitled, spoiled college athletes and former college athletes who want a cut of NCAA profits. Here's how the shit all works. It's no secret that college football and college basketball make a shitload of money. Between the games for football, the March Madness, the basketball tournaments, bowl games, television contracts, merchandising, and video games, college sports is a money-making business. But who the fuck is making money off of it? A good portion of that money goes back to schools themselves. But then every greedy motherfucker after that with a handout takes a cut of it. Corporations who sponsor football want a cut. Conferences with all the teams, they want a cut. The NCAA, they sure take their cut. Then, schools decide where money goes, and you can only guess where that shit goes. You have coaches who have $1 million salaries, in some case $6 million a fucking year. You have school presidents who make a couple $1 million a year. Hell, that greedy motherfucker who ran Ohio State for years had a bow tie allowance. No, really, I'm not fucking joking. A fucking $64,000 a year allowance to buy bow ties. This is how fucking sickening this shit can be. Every greedy motherfucker possible makes money. But guess who doesn't? The athletes themselves, the kids who are playing the sports, in particular football and basketball, because those are the two most profitable and financially solvent sports in college. These kids are the ones playing the game, while everyone around them is making money off them. The schools make money, the coaches make money, the trainers, athletic directors, the fucking hot dog vendors at stadiums selling foot-long cocksucker hot dogs, you name it. The NCAA has created a shitload of rules to make sure kids don't earn any money. The NCAA wants athletes to remain under an umbrella as amateur athletes. And by that, it means that they do not get paid. To play college sports, you must be considered an amateur. To be an amateur, you're not allowed to make money for yourselves. Hey, what a great fucking rule, right? Instead, athletes receive free ride scholarships to school. That's their trade-off. In addition to not getting paid, there are all kinds of rules to make sure they don't receive anything other than their scholarship money. Accepting food from coaches? That's a violation. Accepting a ride to a game in someone's car that isn't a student? That's a violation. Fucking cream cheese on bagels is considered a violation. Or the worst case that happened about 10 years ago, a tampon. And I'm not lying about this shit either. A girl was playing softball and got her period mid-game. No lie, this is a true story. The female coach gave her a tampon to change in the bathroom and clean up. And guess what? That was against the rules. It was considered a violation since periods are not deemed medical sports injuries. Yes, a woman's twat can bleed right out into a uniform, and the NCAA just says you have to sit there and bleed out. I mean, obviously, since then they changed the rule, but this shows you how fucked up their rules really are. Non-medically necessary items were considered illegal gifts. Now, the college athletes are fighting back, in particular the football players, because they want a piece of the action. They know that everyone around them is making money, and now they want a cut of the profits that everyone is making off of their backs. And their demands are to be paid while they're at school, to get a cut of TV contracts, to put them on television, and to be able to make money off their images. Those are the three main issues that athletes are arguing. The amateur rules screw them over, and they want to be treated like professionals. Here's the problem. You fuckers are already paid. You greedy bastards are already receiving benefits above and beyond what a normal student already receives. Think about this. A college athlete in any sport is receiving a full 4-year scholarship so that they can earn their degree, and in some cases 5-year scholarships. How much do you think tuition goes for nowadays? What, $150,000 for 4 years? $200,000? Now, you tell a student with an A- or B+ average they need to fork over that kind of money on their own, while you get the same education for free, and on top of that, you're getting paid? There are parents who would kill for that scholarship. A full ride to a top university for their child instead of having to cough up hundreds of thousands of dollars plus take out loans. There are teens who would love the chance to go to a top name school but just can't afford it, and they have to go to more affordable schools that aren't their top choice. But some meathead 350-pound lineman who can't spell his own fucking name gets to go for free? Motherfucker's about as intelligent as a bucket of shrimp, but he gets a 4-year degree just for showing up for classes? Get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. They receive free tuition, free room and board, free tutoring, free food, free health services, and access to world-class training equipment. Most importantly, people who play the most visible sports at these big schools receive some of the most utmost care that a normal student or even an athlete in a shitty sport doesn't receive. The University of Oregon and Alabama University just built football-only training complexes for their athletes. Do you see a fucking equestrian rider getting that? No! They have hot tubs large enough to fit the entire rowing team and their boat with the coxswain in that motherfucker. Normal students don't get that luxury. Shit, you know how many intelligent kids and their parents would kill for the opportunity that some of the fucking backups have? You have fucking guys who will never see the field with full ride scholarships and a grade point average similar to that of a small rock. And people think that's fair? They should get more for being on a football team? The inequality about schools is fucking embarrassing. It's disgusting from both sides of the argument. School administrators make millions of dollars to sit back and be a fucking cheerleading fundraiser who dines with other rich assholes. Corporations make millions of dollars to put their names on a product. Ooh, it's opening weekend sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Ooh, it's rival week sponsored by FedEx. Ooh, it's the cheerleader ass rape bowl sponsored by KY Jelly. Do these cons sponsor finals week at schools? No, they don't. Do they sponsor freshman orientation on campus? Of course not. Because you can't make money off of schools for learning. You make money off the athletes with IQ levels similar to that of jellyfish. Then you have athletes who get full scholarships, free meals, free healthcare, and training, and they want more. They want a cut of what universities are bringing in because that scholarship to free education isn't enough already. Because students who have to pay their own way to school also need to fund the players' greed as well as the school administrators' greed. So how the fuck do you fix all this shit? How on earth do you possibly settle an issue between two greedy fucks who are screwing over the poor fucks who want to go to college? Simple. You let me fix this shit. Now I can sit here and create a 20-video blueprint series on how to fix the NCAA along with every other major fucking sport, including feet ball and flop ball. You know, where grown men kick around that damn soccer ball for 3 hours, fall on the floor writhing in pain when nobody touches them. You know, maybe one day I'll rant about all that, but for now, I'm not going to do a whole series on that bullshit. I'll just give you the basics in this video on how to fix certain things. Now, unfortunately, because the NCAA is so fucking incompetent, because major college administrators have their head shoved up their ass, because corporations are nothing more than snake oil salesman criminals, because college athletes are at an age when stupidity is no longer accepted excuse as to why they're assholes, and because the NFL and NBA are too busy counting their billions to worry about this bullshit, none of my ideas would ever see the light of day. Mainly because my ideas are brilliant, and they would fix all the problems that these assholes enjoy. So for now, these ideas are just going to highlight how fucking ridiculous each group of these assholes really are. The first solution is to allow players the ability to make an income. Now, right now, players can't make any money off their own image, but everyone else can. If I'm a star quarterback in college, I can't accept one dime for being who I am, but my neighbor can take all the photos of me he wants and profit off of my image. It's a huge sticking point to college amateur rules. How can someone else profit off my own image? I mean, think about it. If Google and YouTube wanted to roll out a new ad campaign, and YouTube tells me they want to use some of my video content for promotional purposes, fine, but I want a cut of that shit. I want a piece of the action. So you have to pay me, motherfucker. YouTube tells me, oh, our parent company Google says that nobody can be paid for their content, but we're going to use it anyway, and we're not going to pay you since it's against Google's policies and shit. Fuck you! And that's how college players feel. So go ahead, let them make money off of their image. However, there is a catch. If you want to receive money off of your own image, if you want to profit from who you are, then you are no longer going to receive a scholarship. Nope. If you think you can make more money signing autographs and whoring yourself out without the use of an agent, without a contract with a vendor like Nike or Under Armour, since that would be against the rules, then by all means, feel free to make as much money as you possibly can. But you now have to pay for your own scholarship. You forfeit any rights you have for free tuition, and you will be responsible for paying your own tuition, your own room and board, your own food, your own fees, for access to training facilities, all of that shit. All because you think your image is worth more. That's a fair trade, because the reality is, this is only going to affect a small population of student athletes. Mostly the assholes who think that without college jersey on, they're still worth something. So go ahead, do a car commercial without mentioning that you play college football. Go ahead and sucker people into paying autographs and photo opportunities and shit like that. And see if that shit affords you $40,000 a year you need to cover your tuition costs. Earn your money legally within the restrictions of NCAA amateurism rules, without agents and professional contracts, and see how far along you get without that scholarship. This would be a glorious fuck you to both the NCAA and the athletes who both think this shit don't stink. I guarantee you the majority of these kids would fail miserably. Hell, you're one injury away from losing everything you fucking got. But hey, you want to make money off your image. Be my guest, but don't think you're still entitled to the same benefits as a free ride scholarship at the same fucking time. There's no way in hell the NCAA would go for this, but it shows you why paying these kids and allowing them to make more money is absurd when they already have a free ride to education. Now, the second option I have is probably the most palatable. Create a trust fund per student athlete. Technically, this is a payment process for students, but only upon graduation. While an athlete at any school, students will be allowed to set up a graduation trust fund where money generated from your image, generated from revenues at the school, are donated to the athlete upon graduation. Not when they leave, not when they flunk out, not when they transfer, not when they head to drafts early and shit like that, but upon graduation with an actual degree. All athletes, not just football and basketball, would have trust funds and revenue that would only go towards the conferences, the commissioners, the sponsors, you name it. All of that shit will feed this trust fund. Anyone associated with college football must contribute to the trust fund of each athlete in every single school. If you want to put your name on a bowl game, guess what? Those profits are going to be cut into the trust fund. If you want your apparel to be used on the field, guess what? Donate to the trust fund. All the money these corporations are making and the school administrators and coaches are making is absurd. Athletes want to cut, and this is a fair way to add it and cut into those profits. Now, the reason why I say graduation is because scholarships are still giving them a free ride. In order to earn that money, you must show that you left school with something other than your own personal fucking greed. If you graduate with your degree instead of leaving early, you will earn that share of money. Now, of course, for athletes who'll be leaving early to the NBA, to the NFL, they're not going to get this money, and rightfully so. They're leaving for greener pastures. They're leaving to sign a professional contract for money, which negates the effect of this trust fund. It pisses all over the idea that this trust fund builds and shouldn't be available to those who try to alter the fund and leave for money. All the revenue sharing that the NCAA has taken will be factored into the trust funds of athletes. This is easily something that could be implemented immediately. In addition, because different sports earn different shares of revenue, the one caveat I would add to this trust fund is that television contracts with the NCAA will pay certain sports different amounts. Again, there is no arguing that more people watch college football compared to like women's ping pong or some shit like that. The trust funds for football players will be higher than any other sport. Not by much, not by a significantly drastic amount, but they will receive a higher proportion compared to other sports, and that will be due to the television contracts. Because let's be fair for a minute, the money that comes in for college football goes towards women's field hockey and men's lacrosse and other relevant sports, you know, like midget tossing and booger flicking. That's just like popular in the southern states and shit like that. Now, anyway, the main issue that you're going to run into with this is Title IX. For those that don't know what that is, it's a law that says men's and women's sports need to be treated equally, blah, 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 blah. Fine. All the donations will go equally towards the base fund, but the TV contract is what will separate out men's football payments from women's gymnastics or salad tossing contests. Imagine that. The day salad tossing becomes a sport. Oh, I ain't gonna get into that shit, man. But that could be like a stepping stone towards a very productive porn career, some shit like that. But anyways, it's the only option in which schools offer part of the revenue streams to students. But only upon graduation. Now, the final option is giving the NFL and the NBA a good swift kick in the dick. The NFL and the NBA need to create minor leagues. That's right, I said it and I will say it again. The NFL and NBA should create minor leagues, which would bail out the NCAA. Holy shit. Now, hear me out for a minute on this idea. The NCAA is eventually going to lose the case against how much money they make off of these kids' backs while calling them amateurs. There's no question about that. The NCAA is going to have to give these kids something, since the two most financially sound sports are football followed by basketball. They will eventually cave and end up paying all the athletes something, even down to men's water polo and shit like that. But that's mainly because the players have virtually no option in life but to go to college before professional sports, in particular football. Basketball has a few more options, so their arguments is going to be a little bit different. If there were minor league options, similar to what baseball and hockey have implemented, the kids will have an option of whether they want to stay an amateur and play college sports or head to the minors of football as a professional, similar to baseball. Now imagine this from all perspectives here. Let's use the NFL as the example, since the NBA already has the D-League and that can be expanded upon. The NFL makes billions each year and they're always looking to expand. After all, if college is greedy, what the fuck does that make the NFL? They can expand into 32 more markets, different from when they have teams right now. Las Vegas, San Antonio, Portland, Hartford, Orlando, and they can change the NFL draft to include high school players. Those players will be given the same options that baseball players have. Go play professionally for a contract and skip college, or go to college in hopes of increasing your marketing and your money power. The NFL could make some similar rules to entice people to still attend college, such as high school colleges will last longer with lower wages, while a college player will receive more money options and better contract perks. In other words, make the choice harder for them, but make college more enticing. Meanwhile, colleges are now let off the hook in terms of payments. You don't like amateur rules? Then fuck it, get the hell out of school and go play professionally. This also provides them an escape they're looking for in terms of paying players. Now, one of the downsides is going to be that the NCAA is going to make less money because their stars are leaving. Well, look at the alternative. The alternative is to pay them, along with all the other athletes in every other sport that I mentioned in the prior two examples. In the prior examples, the NCAA is now responsible for splitting their costs and profits with the players, where in the minor league suggestion, they keep all their money for themselves, except it's not going to be as much money as before. You know, they'll still have plenty of sponsorships, plenty of fans are still going to go to games that they love. You know, Bama isn't going to lose any fans, Florida isn't going to lose any fans, Ohio State, Michigan, you name it. The NCAA might not like the idea of the NFL making a minor league, but realistically, what options do you have? Let players make money off of their images and then you have college millionaires? How well do you think that's going to go over? When boosters see how much one person is making over another, and then they say, hey, you know what? You're not making as much as this player. Here's a little bit of dollars on the side so that you can make as much of this motherfucker to stay in school. The money issue doesn't go away. It magnifies. The cesspool of college players taking dirty money now is only going to increase when making money off of their image becomes legal. Having a minor league system gives all parties, as much as they may not like it, a mutual way around the problems. The NFL gets teams in more cities for more exposure, athletes get an option of turning pro or staying in college like baseball and hockey have, and the NCAA gets around the issue of money and them not having to share that with the players, since there's now an option for the players to leave and make money. It's certainly not a perfect idea, and there are pitfalls to a minor league team, but if the NFL felt like helping out the NCAA, they sure could. They could swoop in and rescue their dumbasses from themselves. Because let's be honest, this entire mess is caused by the NCAA. The entire fucked up system is because the NCAA got greedy. This wasn't a problem 30, 40, 50 years ago. Television contracts were a rarity back in the day. Schools relied on tradition and old school methods of recruiting and building a team. ESPN wasn't around, and your only national exposure was bowl games and being on Saturday TV in a decent game. It wasn't until the NCAA struck TV deals to gain more exposure. It wasn't until these multi-million-dollar endorsements started where the NCAA started making money and schools started profiting off TV. There were no million-dollar coaches back in the day. Coaches weren't paid as much as professional coaches. Hell, some coaches now are paid more than NFL coaches. The NCAA greed has spiraled out of control over the past 20 years, all because of TV profits, sponsors, and licensing agreements. They continue their system of using athletes to make money while pretending there is no way to include the athletes in on the revenue. The NCAA has been nothing more than a fucking scam for the past 20 years, and they are the equivalent of extortionist level criminals. And every vendor, every sponsor, and partner with the NCAA has been held hostage by their extortionist ways. Both sponsors pay the NCAA directly and only receive partial TV revenue. The NFL and NBA have never stepped up on behalf of the athletes. As a matter of fact, they made rules to make it harder for athletes to leave college sports. TV networks like ESPN, Fox, ABC, CBS, they all profited from this shit, and they all greased the palms of those cocksuckers at the NCAA. Creating the minor league now gives these kids options and a professional way out if they want to start making some money instead of earning a degree. It's the grand plan that in the end will benefit all parties. Some will benefit more than others. The NCAA will just have to accept that their presidents and sponsors will not get a $10 million bonus each year. But you know what? Fuck you. It's that simple. You're greedy, so fuck you. And that leaves the last partner in this equation, EA Sports. I have never in my life ever imagined EA Sports being a victim or the entity that you root for in a situation. But this is clearly one example. EA was part of the lawsuit that was filed between the former players and the NCAA, but they settled the lawsuit. They said all along they have no issue paying the athletes, but they had to follow the NCAA rules. They have no issue paying for licenses since they already pay licenses for pretty much every fucking game they have. So asking for player likeness wasn't an issue. The NCAA prevented them from doing so, and in the end, EA settled their lawsuit for $40 million. That sounds like a lot, but in the end, each athlete whose image they use, they're only going to get a whopping $300 a person. I mean, that's right. Each player is walking away with $300. EA is losing a franchise because players wanted $300 fucking dollars. After taxes, what are you looking at? 180 bucks? Of course the players want more. They want more TV contracts. They want personal marketing. But for the video game sector, all they're getting is $300 fucking dollars. Like I said, greed is what ruined this game. Greed is what is ruining college sports. Greed is the reason we no longer have an NCAA video game. It's the criminals in suits and ties and team-colored sweaters that all belong in jail and flogged. But sadly, it's not going to be fixed anytime soon unless these motherfuckers decide to make me in charge. Anyways, like I said, this was the longest rant ever on my channel, but you know what? This shit had to be said. As always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next video.